Okay, let's quickly run through the basic terms in Start Rule. Help you have a clearer understanding and get you going in Start 101. So we'll start with population. That's the first one. Population is a complete or total collection of all elements to be studied, while we have the sample to be a representative group drawn from the entire population to be studied. So I'll use a case study to explain that. Let's assume we want to observe the effect of exclusive breastfeeding on breastfeeding mothers in Nigeria. Exclusive breastfeeding and weight loss in nursing mothers. So now, in this kind of research, the population now is the total number of breastfeeding mothers to be studied, and that will be the nursing mothers in Nigeria. Now, I have represented this with this circle, representing the, let's assume all these are women breastfeeding. Of course, there are more than this, but this is hypothetical. These are breastfeeding mothers in Nigeria. Now, look at this smaller portion of it, a subset. Because the reason why we hardly carry out a research on the entire population is because sometimes it is impossible to have an access to the total number of people constituting the population. Or even when it is accessible, it may be too expensive to carry research on everybody, or maybe totally unachievable. For instance, if the total number of nursing mothers in Nigeria is, I'm sure is about 2 million. I wish I had an access to that figure on MBS. I'm sure it's over 2 million. You can imagine carrying out a research on 2 million people. So what we usually do is to have a representative portion, which is called the sample. You can see the sample here, represented by this small circle. So now the total number of elements in the sample is called the sample size. Is the sample size. Now, any summary number that is describing a sample is called a statistic. And any summary number that describes a population is called a parameter. So next is the variable. A variable is an attribute or property of the population to be studied. For instance, in the case study we have now, we are observing exclusive breastfeeding on the weight loss in nursing mothers. So the variable we are trying to observe in this case is the weight loss. It could be salary, it could be number of children, it could be the height, it could be the blood group, it could be hair color, it could be the skin type, whatever it is. In fact, statistics is all about variability, because if everything is actually the same, there will be no need to carry research on anything. So a variable is the attribute or property of the population that is to be studied. Now, when a variable can be measured in numbers, it is called a quantitative variable. When it cannot be measured in numbers and you can only place it in group or categories, it is called a categorical variables. Example of a quantitative variable will be the height. You have weight, because you can actually measure all these things in number. You have the number of, let's say, number of children, number of dogs, salary, all these things can be measured in numbers. But categorical variables are variables that we cannot actually measure in number, we can just place them in group. Example is your hair color. You know, some people have blonde hair, black, blue, or whatever. You have the letter grade, A, B, C till E. You have the blood group, you know, type of color, type of dogs, maybe local breed, whatever. I'm not so good with breeds of dog. So when a variable can be measured in numbers, it is a quantitative variable. When it can only be placed in group, it is the categorical variable. So let's say, what type of quantitative variable? We get quantitative data from a quantitative variable. Now, the data you obtain by measuring a quantitative variable is called a quantitative data. And we get categorical data from a categorical. Quantitative data can also be in two types. Quantitative data can be discrete or it could be continuous. A quantitative data is said to be discrete when it refers to variables that can be measured in certain numbers, and it is continuous if it refers to variables that can take on any numerical values. Now, a quantitative data is discrete when you can use a certain number to describe it. For instance, we have a number of children. Number of children. You know, we can only have 1, 2, 4. There's nothing like 2.4 children. It's not possible. There are no in-betweens with the discrete data. But with a continuous data, it can take on any numerical value. Examples would be like in weight, in height. For weight now, we can have 100 kg, you can have 100.01 kg. There are in-betweens. The list is continuous from the meaning of the word itself. Is continuous. A categorical data is said to be ordinal. From the word order, if there is a logical ordering to the values of that categorical variable, and it is said to be nominal if there are no logical ordering. Now, an example would be, for instance, we have a letter grade as a categorical data. Don't forget I said you can only place it in group. You know, for letter grade we have A. We know that A is a better grade than B, and B is higher than C, and C is higher than D. In fact, we can say to how much extent, for instance, the difference between A and B could be 10 marks, this also 10 marks, or whatever, this 10 marks. So we can order it in a logical manner. But for a nominal categorical data, there is no logical ordering. For instance, hair color. Hair color. You know, we have black, we have blonde, some people have red hair. We cannot say that black hair is better than blonde, or blonde, or to what extent is black hair better than blonde, or blonde better than red. For instance, also blood group, AB, O plus, or whatever. There is no logical ordering. Leg shape, K leg, bow leg, whatever. You cannot order it as to which one is higher or which one is better. So, in summary, we start with a population, and it's the total number of elements to be studied, while a sample is a representative portion of that population. Any summary number that describes a population is called a parameter, and any summary number that describes a sample is a statistics. The total number of elements in a sample is a sample size. Now, what we are observing about the population is called a variable, which is an attribute or property to be studied. Now, a variable can be quantitative when it can be measured in numbers, or it can be categorical when it can only be placed in group. We get quantitative data from quantitative variables, while we get categorical data from categorical variable. Now, quantitative data can be discrete or continuous. It is discrete when it only refers to variables that can be measured in certain numbers, and it is continuous when it can take any numerical value. Now, a categorical data is ordinal if there is a logical ordering to the values of the categorical variable, and it is nominal if there are no logical ordering. I want to believe this video has helped you. Don't keep it to yourself. Share with your friends, and like the page, and watch out for more videos in Statistics 101. I'll catch you later.